gosh, look at the crowd.
Come this way.
Those who spread goodness radiate happiness to everyone around them. Introducing LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
Good evening and welcome to LMDtv. I'm Ashwini Vethakan. Joining us this week on Talking Business is the Chief Executive Officer of SDB Bank, Thilak Piyadigama. Welcome to the show, Thilak. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you. Nice to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Thilak, what is the role of banking institutions on the growth of the SME segment in Sri Lanka?
Well, banks can play multiple roles apart from its traditional role of giving loans or providing financing. In today's context, SMEs need, I think, better support, not only the financing. For an example, we can be mentoring them, coaching them to help their business grow, because we have a much better experience in terms of running a bank. So we have that business skill, and also dealing with a lot of customers. We also have various other experiences, exposures, so that way we can contribute to their running the business part apart from finances. So basically we can be a coach, advisor, mentor, friend, colleague, all that, right? And also at the end of the day, for me, even for SDB Bank for that matter, giving a loan is not everything. We want to ensure that we create wealth at very grassroots level of people who are taking loans from us, right? So that's one aspect. So the other aspect is we also as bankers get exposed to a lot of new things, what's happening across banking sector in Sri Lanka, as well as in the whole world. For an example, we have partnership with international DFIs, so where we get a lot of best practices, we learn from them. So part of that we can give to our SMEs as well. That's another way of helping them. So then probably the fourth, Sri Lanka has a lot of now digital opportunities, and SMEs are the ones who did not have the opportunity to use digital technologies and so on, but now they can leapfrog by adopting digital technologies right away, because it's just available now. For an example, Lanka QR. You can be a Lanka QR merchant and do all your transactions through digital means, right? So I think broadly this is what we could do. And the other areas, like we can help them with auditing, we can help them with keeping their accounts right, help them with taxes and so on. So basically we can be a full-fledged financial advice kind of role.
In your opinion, what is the risk appetite of the banking sector, and how must this change to support businesses in the prevailing market condition?
Well, I think I know a lot of people ask this question, but I think that question itself is not the right question for me. When you talk about risk appetite, it's not about the bank alone, right? So we also look at the viability of the project. If someone comes and tells me tomorrow, look, I want to set up a plant to export say coconut oil, I mean, I have to go through the whole project and its feasibility, the viability, and also the capability of the promoters, whether they can do such a venture. I'm just getting a bit of a extreme case, but this is applicable to even smaller businesses. So I think it is not only the bank. I think we have look at the whole the business proposition which they're trying to bring out by taking a facility from a bank. So banks always, I mean, you look at our fundamental business is actually giving loans. That's how we make money. That's how we grow. So we are always all out to do that, provided there are right opportunities on the side of the customer. So it is not a question of only the risk appetite of the bank. It is a risk appetite of the industry, risk appetite of the customer, whether he has covered all the areas that he needs to cover, because ultimately the risk is not only in us, the risk is on them as well. So it's a collaborative effort as far as I'm concerned. Once that issue is sorted, I think we can have much better credit growth in the SME sector.
What are the new growth market segments, and how are banks catering to their needs?
Well, I think if you talk about the new markets, I mean, post COVID-19, I see a lot of new industries has got created. For an example, logistics became a very, very important sector, particularly, I mean, you take all these tuk-tuks, they became delivery mechanism for food during the time of the lockdown. So the logistics overall, that I think is a growth market certainly. And also they are more organized now. So they have digital technologies. And for example, the logistic company in Sri Lanka, such as even PickMe. So they got a very, very advanced technologies to ensure better quality service and also they also provide you more product, more of a better experience to customers, and also we can predict, there's predictability of their services. For an example, if I order something, I know it will arrive in 10 minutes or 1 hour, which was not the case earlier. So logistics, domestic logistics is one growth area I see will continue to grow. Then the other areas like agri, for an example, there's a lot of emphasis on the government as well, and also the banks and also can play a slightly different role than the conventional role. For an example, if you take the 27% of our employment is in agri sector, producing about 8% of GDP. So if, I mean, there are two ways of making them better. Either you take people out of the agri and put them somewhere else and contribute more to the GDP, or we also can make them more efficient, right? Automate them, give them more better technologies and so on. So then that sector can grow. So agri is definitely bound to grow, and also the import restrictions currently in place also can help them to grow into different areas. Then other areas like a lot of local production, which had alternate imports, now since they are curtailed, so there will be other areas of growth as well in the local production sector. And I see another growth area as the ICT, because the connected world, we are all connected now, about 6 billion population in the world connect through internet. And also that's one of the positives out of the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of people started working from home. So when you work from home, basically it tells you your home can be anywhere in the world. So ICT professional definitely will be, I think, will be a hot subject when it comes to the growth areas. And also the COVID-19 also, I think, enhance capabilities of digital delivery systems. Obviously you need more and more resources to cater those needs. So obviously ICT also will be another growth area. And the post-COVID, I'm sure we have been stuck in homes and lockdowns and things like that for about now two years. So we all want to go somewhere. We want to travel. I think there will be a tourism boom as well. I'm very certain that the tourism will come back to what it was, or it can be even better than what it could be. So those are my sort of sort of reflections of the growth areas.
Tilak, how supportive is the regulatory framework in ensuring a conducive working environment for the banking sector?
Well, to be honest, I don't see any serious areas that we have to improve. I mean, the current framework is quite good enough. I mean, it takes care of well-being of the financial service sector, which is very important. And we are very well regulated. As I know, we managed to navigate this 2 years of outbreak so far without much of difficulties. And the good thing is, our banking models are built from the learning of 2008 financial crisis and Basel III and so on. So I think we are very robust, and our stability is quite guaranteed under the supervision of central banks. That is, the framework is, I think, working fine. But I think what we need to do is we can fine tune, refine some of the areas of our banking system, to cater to a larger audience, and if you can remove some of the areas where we can improve. For an example, the banks can't take equity in say some way the business ventures, but if you are allowed to do, then we also can reconfigure our business. But it's a different kind of banking model we are talking about. So such initiatives can help grow Sri Lanka as well. So those are the areas. But by and large, I don't see much of a real difficulty of the current framework of moving forward.
And on that note, we'll be going in for a short break. Welcome back as we continue our conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of SDB Bank, Thilak Piyadigama. Thilak, despite the growth in digital banking services, how prepared is the sector to leverage digital banking in every level, including back-end services?
I think digital has taken off in Sri Lanka, I would say, big time. Now, for an example, I'm a heavy promoter of Lanka QR, being the chairman of Lanka QR Implementation Committee appointed by Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Within about 6 months of work, we were able to capture 260,000 merchants across Sri Lanka. This is 6 months of work. But if you take the POS machines, which came with the plastics or the cards, that has a history of about 30 years, but they have about 90,000 POS machine. That doesn't mean that there are 90,000 merchants, maybe about 50,000 merchants, because every merchant has few POS machines if you go to a supermarket and so on. So last few months, I think there are a lot of other digital initiatives have come in, and so people are adapting as well. So I just gave you one simple example, Lanka QR. Similarly, number of cards in Sri Lanka, the debit cards particularly, almost about 20 million. That's every citizen has a card. So the credit cards are also on the increase, and every month there are a number of cards going up. So I think Sri Lanka as a country overall, I think the digital is taking off. I can see it, and there are a lot of digital initiatives happening in Sri Lanka, not only banking, in other areas, like for example logistics I mentioned. I mean, you talk about any industry, there's a digital. You go to a cinema, you can book via online. You can go to your doctor, you can book online. So there are a lot of things happening in digital space. So that means it's not only banking. So all these other industries are actually, they're all interconnected. You can't book a doctor unless there's a payment system linked to it. So it's there. So you can't do your taxi unless payment systems are there. So they're all interconnected. So basically, Sri Lanka is building I would say, it's a platform for Sri Lanka. So every connection you make through various connectivity of different industries will enable more transaction opportunities and business opportunities. So I mean, hence I would say Sri Lanka has taken off. And also, if you take the number of mobile connections Sri Lanka has, we have about 30 million mobile connectivity for 20 million population. But we have only about 10 million smartphones, but the number is growing rapidly. And also now, if you take Sri Lankans, about 50% of population got internet connectivity. Out of that, about 80 to 90% traffic is through mobile devices. So mobile is becoming one of those I would say center of attention for all these digital deliveries. So we have 10 million. I think that's a good start, right? But I'm sure with the new units coming in, so that will grow. So given all these pieces in place now, I would say it's a very promising time. I'm give about another 1 or 2 years, you will see whole of Sri Lanka will be at a totally different with digital technology, not only in banking, in other areas. I mean, you can see a few days back there was in the press, digital signature has been adopted by your Ministry of Justice. In fact, SDB Bank started digital signatures about almost 10 months ago way back in January. So there are a lot of things happening in the industry. I mean, we can do now online onboarding of customers to banking. And so similarly, I have seen insurance companies doing. So there's a lot going on. As a result, I think we can be a pretty much a digital nation soon, right? So I will repeat the success of what we experienced the mobile phone back in, I think, around late 70s, early 80s, when mobile phone came to Sri Lanka. It was nothing but rich man's toy. But now every home has more than a phone. In fact, if there are one phone, there has no, it's not useful. The father having a phone has no use. Everyone need to have a phone. That's how they can communicate with each other. So this trend will grow. Plus now you need data for your online education and all the online things what you do. So all that put together, I'm very certain that I think digital is will take Sri Lanka totally different, and that's going to happen pretty soon.
What are the constraints that prevent local banks from becoming more competitive within the financial sector of South Asia?
Well, when you talk about competitiveness of local banks, I think going out of Sri Lanka itself is, I think, constrained. I think partly it's because we don't have the resources. Because when you go out, you need capital and other related the I would say raw materials. So only very few bank has done that because they had resources, but not everyone had. I think if you are a very large bank, you can do that. I think then when you look at Sri Lanka, we have smaller banks as well, like even SDB Bank. It's not a very large bank. So I think the size matters, number one. The number two, banking particularly has become very competitive across the globe, and there are international banks, there are domestic banks which are, who are very dominant. So you should be able to compete with them with little resources you have. So you have to have that capability, and also it has been a DNA of most organizations in Sri Lanka. So I think it's not only banking. I think if you take Sri Lanka as a whole, very few companies have gone overseas and established operations and have been successful. So banking is no different. And also you should not do because you want to expand internationally. I think you have to understand your markets. You also have to understand your core strengths. Then only you can expand. I think all this put together, I think the constraints are within organizations. I think if you can get over them, then I think we can expand internationally. So expansion of internationally means does not necessarily mean you go and open branches. I mean, you can go for partnerships. You can go for shareholding of institutions in various countries. You can buy shares of those institutions. I think there are different ways of doing this, and not necessarily you have to go and open a branch or things like that. You can do digitally, right? I mean, most of the apps what we have, in fact, the UPI app what we have, it can be used internationally. That's possible. So you can find your own or different ways of expanding when the time is right.
Thilak, to what extent has the Forex crisis affected the banking sector?
Well, I think banking sector is one part of the issue. I think it starts with Sri Lanka not earning enough Forex, okay, through their exports and tourism and remittance and so on. So those areas have got severely impacted, obviously, because of COVID-19 outbreak. So I mean, takes tourism as a whole, right? So it's basically no business at the moment from tourism. So obviously we have a shortage of incoming Forex. So obviously with that, you also can't have Forex. You don't have resources for imports. So you had to deal with, I think, that issue very dynamically, and you had to look at your priorities and how your country can deal with it and so on. So that's how you have to deal with it. So I think the banks get highlighted. It's because I think banks are the ones who are channeling or putting those transactions through for imports and exports. And that's why banks get highlighted. But there's a larger issue, and also I think the country getting downgraded also I think has I think a significant impact of people coming and investing in even other areas. Now, for an example, we see Colombo stock market is doing very well, but we also can see foreigners are exiting. So I think it's not just Forex as such the problem, but I think the problem is larger. So we have to sort out all those issues. But I must say that I think the central bank's the 6 months roadmap, which the new governor presented few days back, I think is trying to address and trying to give some kind of a message of stability. I think hopefully initiatives like that will help. And also there's a role the government of Sri Lanka has to play, the regulators has to play. I think if we all get together and play their respective roles, I think the Forex is not an issue only in the context of banking. It's an issue of a country. It's an issue of Sri Lanka. So we all should get together and sort it out.
Our final question for this evening, Thilak: how can the sector become more resilient to cope with external shocks?
Well, I think it depends on how much resilient we have to demonstrate. Now, if you talk about Sri Lankan banks, I think 2008 crisis, we all survived. So now 2 years of COVID-19 pandemic related issues we have survived. So I think that shows, I think our fundamentals are very strong. Our foundations are very strong. So I think our level of regulation, supervision, and all the good governance we are practicing, and the rules and regulations in the country as a whole, I think has helped us maintain this level of stability. But I think I'm very sure even if we get pushed a little bit more, I'm sure we can still sustain our institutions. So to that extent, I think my answer to your question is, I think we are ready to face even bigger challenges than what we have experienced, and I'm sure we'll still come out of it.
Well, this has been an interesting conversation. Thank you for your insights into the banking sector, Thilak.
Thank you for having me, and have a pleasant day. Thank you.
Coming up, we have the latest from the LMD-NielsenIQ Business Confidence Index, or BCI. Stay tuned.
You love the feeling of being renewed. To stay beautiful every single day. To breathe just like we do. because you are truly delicate, protecting the ones who've been with us through the years. With Thilak Care, the only wood coating that truly protects you. Thilak Wood Coatings from JAT.
Welcome back, and here's the latest from the LMD-NielsenIQ Business Confidence Index. As Sri Lanka sees progress on the healthcare front, with reports of new COVID-19 cases and fatalities declining in recent weeks, and with the Budget 2022 proposals on the horizon, the latest LMD-NielsenIQ Business Confidence Index or BCI survey indicates that sentiment in corporate circles continues to improve. The BCI's upward trajectory continued in October, registering an increase of 7 basis points to 111, a 5-month high. However, the index is 4 points shy of where it stood a year ago, although it's 6 months higher than the 12-month average for the first time since April. Elaborating on this outcome, NielsenIQ's Director of Consumer Insights, Thilak says, with the vaccination drive in the country now being open to those under 30 and more than 85% of the over 20 age group being double vaccinated, Sri Lanka could be well on the road to controlling the spread of the virus. In her assessment of the BCI's future trajectory, she states the pandemic is abating, but its short and long-term effects are beginning to be felt with shortages and escalating prices. While both the BCI and Consumer Confidence Index or CCI improved with the pandemic being brought under control, we'll have to wait and see whether the focus shifts to other adverse happenings in the country, Mianadenia adds. Although concerns related to shortages have abated, the recent price hikes on many essential items, together with the prospect of more to come, especially on the fuel front, many undermine biz confidence in the near term. How the business community views the forthcoming budget proposals will also be crucial, along with the positives associated with an easing of the lockdown restrictions. And that's all the time we have for you this week. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.